So in the next section, we're going to talk about actually conducting the screening when your faculty and staff engage in rating students and gathering data about their behavioral performance. So how do we administer the student risk screening scale? First, we recommend initially that you bring all teachers together in a computer lab or a central location where they have access to technology, because there'll be questions about the technology itself, and you want to make sure that teachers have the procedures that we're going to go over in a minute in place as they conduct screening. Then you're going to have teachers log into the secure drive and access their files, and that will take a little bit of practice, but after the first time or two, everybody has it down pat and it goes very smoothly. And then you want to have every teacher open their file and first confirm that it is the students that they are supposed to be rating for that period and that all of their students are accounted for. When you're doing behavior screenings, unlike academic screenings, you want to make sure that you have at least 30 days of time to get to know that student before screening them. So if a student just started in your class a week ago or 2 weeks ago, you would hold off on rating them on that time period. We would also encourage teachers to rate students who have just recently left, and the reason is they might be moving to another school within your district, and that would be information that would be important to share with that new school, as well as many students leave a school and then return to the building later. So you wouldn't want to lose that important information that you have as a teacher on the student. It's very critical that all teachers independently rate students in their class. So while you might co-teach with another teacher during a period, it might be a special educator and a general educator working together, this tool is tested on one teacher's rating of each student. So please refrain from having that conversation at that time period. There's lots of conversations that have happened before you sit down to do screening with teachers, and that information can be used as part of your knowledge of the student, but you wouldn't sit down and have what we would consider to be a teaming around conducting screenings. As well, if you're teaching a student teacher how to use this, they might look over your shoulder, you might talk to them, but one teacher is doing the rating on each student. So as you think about how you might administer the screening in your building and the process for gathering teachers and when that may occur and how that may occur, we're going to switch over and show you what one structure might look like for setting this up. So this is a drive that you might see for one district, and this only has 4 schools, so this is just a sampling to show you. But my first folder has the district aggregated data, and that's going to be a folder that only district level personnel have access to because all of the school data will be captured there. And then as you can see, each of these schools has their own folder, which would be permissioned for the administrators and teachers at that school. So I'm going to go into Walton Hills, and then once I get into Walton Hills, I'm going to see that it is on their T drive, which stands for the teacher shared drive, and it's secure. So all teachers have to have a login to be able to access that information. You never want to keep this on your desktop or somewhere that students or someone without permission would be able to access these data on students. The next is a folder to let the district know that this is the folder that they're going to capture out of your school and bring back as they aggregate those data. Then you look for your behavior screening file, and within that, you would find, as a teacher, your teacher identification number. So I'm going to be the first teacher here, and the reason that we use the number instead of your name is teachers' names change over time. So be able to really keep track of these data over time and keep them connected to the teacher. We want to make sure we're using the identification number. And then I'm going to go into the current year. And it's it is the spring time point. So I have a fall, a winter, and a spring. I'm going to open up my spring data time point, and then you will see that I have my class in front of me. So I check that my date is in place. I'm screening on the 25th of April. And my name is Mr. Shadish. And I have the scale for screening, the 0 through 3, and all of my items are in place. And you'll notice that this is an elementary school file for the SRSS IE. This is not a middle school file or a high school file for that tool. I'm checking my students to make sure that they're all there. I'm going to scroll down to my class list. Okay, I have the correct students in my list, and then I'm going to begin. And I'm going to put my first student, Darren, in my head. I'm going to think about Darren's behaviors, and I'm going to go to the first item of steel. And I'm going to say no, and then I'm going to go to the next item. And it's important to think about one student across all items first before moving to the next student. So I'm going to look at the second item. I'm going to rate Darren on what I know to be true. I'm going to think about his behavior, peers, and I'm just going to complete this in terms of his behaviors. And I know my students pretty well by spring, so this goes very quickly. In fall, it might take you an extra moment to think about the behavioral information that you have on students. And then I'm going to go to Scarlett Fanning, and I'm going to complete the same information for her. I know our Scarlett to be a little bit shy, not sad, somewhat anxious, and okay. Now, as you'll notice, the sum of these items happens automatically through formulas, and then I know right away through conditional formatting whether students are falling in a moderate or a high risk. So for the first student that I scored, Darren, I see that he has a moderate level of items on the original 7 items, which is the externalizing scale. And he had no concerns in terms of internalizing items. Now, for Scarlett, actually the opposite is true. I didn't have any concerns for Scarlett in terms of externalizing behaviors according to the scale. And I showed elevated risk, actually at high risk, for some internalizing concerns. So then, as I think about interventions for them, I'm going to use these scores to guide the particular supports that I select. Once you're finished with scoring, you would simply hit Save. And then you would close your folder. And then the district will be able to extract that information and create reports for your school and for you individually. Remember again that we're using only the total scores, so that's the information you would get back. And the item level scores would be stored at the district level but not used for decision-making purposes. And again, I hope you'll take a few minutes just to think about the kind of structure and where you might prepare your screening materials for your school.